Just Eff It. Hi, I'm Romy, an identity coach helping others who struggle with their sexual identity and families of queer youth find their path of understanding and acceptance.
And I'm Carla, a mom empowerment coach empowering moms to own their new identities and motherhood journeys.
And together we are the EFFing Madres. We are here to invite you guys into stories of some inspiring madres
who have changed their lives through an Eff It moment. So here we go. Just Eff It.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. We are the EFFing Madres. Carla, who are we?
Well, I'm Carla, and this is Romy, and this is a podcast of Madres, moms, supporting other moms through these big life-changing, mental-shifting Eff It moments that change the trajectory of your life and that of your families. Ours started with this podcast, and we've had an avalanche of Eff It moments between us on our personal journeys and together doing this podcast. And what we hope is that it motivates a mom out there who really is feeling like they need some sort of shift to happen, but is maybe too nervous to do it, just to know that to take that first step, yes, is the hardest, but it's going to benefit you in so many ways. And we've spoken to so many beautiful, inspiring moms who have listened to that. And even if that Eff It moment didn't come out exactly how they envisioned, it came out for the better for them to have just said Eff It. So we really hope that even if it just hits one person, that's all that matters. It has helped us significantly on our journeys because we are still in ours. It can take some time and it's messy up and down, but I'm so grateful that we started this and we've learned about ourselves and about each other and just like done so many things so that we wouldn't have done had we not said Eff It, you know?
No, and I love that one of the moms, it really talks about like the Eff It moment being like us stepping into like new powers, right? And move. It's like a courageous thing. It's not a careless thing. So I love that part about it. It does take a lot to have these moments. And so for those of you who have had them, are thinking about having them, or want to have them, they're big and they don't just happen easily, So we are proud of these conversations and this idea. And today we have a mom on that I met here in Austin. She lived here a few years ago and we connected. Somebody actually reached out and said she moved here. She doesn't have any friends. You guys should connect. And so something in my heart was like, oh, I want to make sure this person has like a friend here, and tried to connect her with some people and did. And I've just followed her journey on Instagram and reached out because I know she's had a very public and kind of Eff It moment lifestyle. So I wanted to invite her on. So we have Jenny Lee on today sharing her Eff It moment.
Nice. I'm excited to hear what it's all about. So we're going to bring her in just a moment. Jenny Lee here, who's going to be sharing her Eff It moments. So Jenny Lee, let's just jump right into the questions. And so the first question is, what shifted your mindset to say Eff It that you're going to share with everyone today?
Yeah, so I think what shifted my mind frame was experimenting with moving, having a child. So my child is 5, and we've moved every year of his life. And that for me felt really hard because I was a child that was moved around a lot. And I always said that I wasn't going to do that to my child because I experienced a lot of grief and really intense emotions around all of that. And it definitely made me who I am. It made me adaptable, but I was so zeroed in on what if this messes up my child in a way that I'm going to, feel terrible about eventually. And so my Eff It moment was inspired by experimenting with moving my child around, recognizing that he seems totally on board and excited about it, that like he is his own being and not me. He's not who I was as a child. And so I was inspired by recognizing that within myself, that I have to pay very close attention to who he is. That is very different from who I am. And just because I want it, I have to check in and ask, is this something my inner child wants or wanted? Or is this something my child actually needs?
Yeah.
I have a question out of curiosity. Now, when you were moved around as a child, how did your parents present that to you versus how are you presenting it to your son?
Yes, thank you for this question because I thought about that and it is very different. It is extremely different. There was no real conversations. There was no inviting me into the exploration and the decision. There was no real communication about my feelings around it. And when I became older, right? So my child is 5, and I understand that he's in a different developmental stage than he will be when, he's 10 or even 7. So I think just trying to stay present with that because throughout my whole life I've moved and it's still me. I'm still doing it and I've learned to embrace it. But all of that societal shame around when you have a child, you have to settle down, you have to provide a stable home for them, you have to, and I'm like, stable home doesn't have to mean the same home.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, yeah, I've gone into a deep dive and I love that question so much because it's true. It is extremely different the way that we're approaching it with him. We are literally asking him at 5, do you want to move to Colorado? Did you like it there?
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting yeses. We're getting yeses. And it's just my internalized inner child, my internalized societal conditioning around I'm supposed to provide this particular type of living situation for my child. And ever since I said F it, which honestly, you emailed me at the right time because we were literally making that decision to move again. And I was like, this is my F it. Like this is because it's just taken me every year. So he's 5, we've moved every year. And I just had some moments where I'm like, the way that you're showing up right now for him as a parent in this amount of shame and is in this amount of guilt is not helping him.
Right.
It's important that we do recognize, and that's what I was saying, like before we jumped on here when you said this. I'm constantly held back on things that I do because I'm afraid to do what my parents did to me. Right? It's just like a deep pain that I think us as moms or dads are like, God, I don't want to do what they did to me. It's almost like our parents just totally fucked up, which God, they didn't all completely fucked up, but we're all just like, no, you did that. I'm not doing that. Right?
Oh.
And
Exactly.
it is so important to recognize that our kids are totally different beings than we were, right? And they are their own people and they're going to react and respond differently. It's important to recognize that our kids, yes, are their own beings, their own people. They have their own identities, and some of the things that we did take from our childhood as it's become part of you do become a part of us. You are somebody who can up and move and travel and adapt because that's how you were raised, and that is a beautiful part of you now, this kind of gypsy, right, like way of life and exploring. So in what you might have thought was something you want to protect your child from, it's actually become a really beautiful thing for you. That gypsy spirit that like you have taken on became a really beautiful thing about you, a really wonderful thing about you.
Thank you. Yeah.
One thing I was going to say about it, if you really think about it, like we as parents, we do hold so much responsibility on how we present things to our kids. We are the ones that can make things good or bad. And so if we are approaching a situation like this is terrible, or we don't communicate what it is that, we're doing with our children, then we don't kind of help control how they, not that we can control how they feel, but like we can help navigate towards a different feeling versus just like icing them out and just like letting them deal with all these emotions about like a big transition. But like if you're approaching it like, hey, we're gonna move, how do you feel about that? Like, then it gives them this like curiosity and wanting to be involved. And if they see that you're happy about it, then they're like, oh, this is an exciting thing. You know what I mean? So it reminds me of that movie, kind of sort of a Life is Beautiful. Did you
Mm.
ever see that movie where it's like about the Nazi concentration camps and that father and that son get stuck in, and he, the dad, presents this horrific situation to his son as a game. And the son has no idea that like people are dying left and right. It's the way that his father presented it to him. So like
Yes.
we as parents have a lot to do with how we present situations to our children,
100%. Yes. Mm-hmm.
you know?
So
So,
I'm curious then, what kind of opportunities have opened up for you since saying F it and moving every year with your son?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I met you,
Yeah.
Romy, because we moved to Texas on a whim. Um, and so like the relationships that the connections that we make every single place we go, even if we only land there for a year. So we were in Austin for two
Mhm.
years. We were in St. Petersburg, Florida for a year. And I was just literally yesterday talking to a mom friend that I met there. We were only there for a year. And I said to her, I said, to think if I didn't move to St. Petersburg, we wouldn't be friends. I just could cry over that. Like I
Mhm.
just the moment that we met, I needed her energy so much. I needed what she was representing. I needed what she was, the message she had for me at that time. And that the relationship will never stop. We don't talk that much, but when we do talk, it's like everything I need to hear. And so I'm reminded that these connections that I make, like they're the gifts that keep on giving. Like even, Romy, we haven't connected in a while, but like
Yeah.
this is perfect. It's an alignment for both of us and for all three of us to be having this conversation. And so
You know, it's interesting you say that though, because so often we talk about community, right? And mothers and the support and the community we need. It is really beautiful to think that you don't even know what you're missing out on by not knowing all the mothers and all these different places that you get to connect and create something with. Some people feel so isolated in their one city because they're not finding their people, right? And they're limited to what is provided, and you're kind of exploring and allowing people from everywhere to fill your cup in that way. I'm curious, is your son also building friendships like that?
yeah, so my son is more extroverted than I am, even. And so, from the moment that he could even babble words, he was like inviting people to be friends with us. Like, oh, can we ask them to play? Oh, can they come over for dinner? Oh, we would move to a new neighborhood and he would see across the street that there was a child. Can we walk over there, mom? Like, he is like building community everywhere we go. He has no problem making friends. And so why I was worried about him is kind of ridiculous when I really start to think about my child versus my own narrative, my own inner child, right? Because I'm still experiencing grief every time we move, just like I was as a child, but I have a reframe around that grief. I know that these relationships don't have to end. I know that these relationships are purposeful. I see every move as sort of this spiritual assignment for me and my family because there's so much goodness that comes from each move. And there is a lot of grief. Like we're getting ready to leave in a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks, again, and there's a lot of grief.
Can I ask you why you guys do the moving? Is it for this experience? Is it part of just what your soul needs? Is it work? What brought it on for you guys? What decision made you guys decide to do this?
Yeah. So we wanted a certain type of school for our child for since I was pregnant. Because when I was pregnant, where we lived in Oregon, we lived near this certain kind of school, and we were immersed in the culture of it. And I was like, I want that for my son, and my husband was on board too. And then kind of had a real issue finding an affordable version for our family of like a version that fit within our means. And so I had done a ton of research, deep diving into public charter versions of this specific type of education. And so with that research, I started traveling around. Me and another mom went on road trips to like visit different places and schools, and finally found one that felt in alignment. And things. So my husband is transgender, and so we're trying to make sure that there is a safety for him Colorado is a transgender sanctuary state, so that was another reason to explore that state.
I was going to ask you when you said that and if you were going to bring that up, because in terms of like our world right now and you being in Texas and then Florida with your family, I would imagine safety is key for your child and your family in the times we are living in. So, do you bounce around now almost in the direction to make sure you have a safe space for everybody?
Yes, and that has come full circle since Texas and then Florida. Florida, got to the point where like I was literally having like anxiety attacks
Yeah.
over like the safety of our family, and like I was like, I can't go to bed at night with this
Mhm.
anxiety. Like we can't live here. And
Mhm.
so I think we're just in touch with our family's unique needs. And I have a certain standard for quality of life. Like, no, I'm not going to live in a state that gives me anxiety attacks. And, we do have privilege in terms of both working remotely. And so that has really served us because it's given us the ability, not everybody has that privilege.
I want to jump in really quick and say this is that you started this before even the whole transgender war on the queer community kicked in the way that it has recently that we're all feeling. Okay. You started these journeys beforehand. There's a blessing though in that because without you knowing that it was going to go this direction, you
Yeah.
already prepped your family and your son for the ability to relocate and adapt. It's almost like without knowing. So if you needed to,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You're right. Yeah. The experimentation,
yeah.
we're definitely soul driven individuals. And, my whole business and practice is built on helping people align with their soul and everything. So, it definitely is connected to just feeling a call, a nudge. And there are usually several reasons that that nudge makes sense for our family.
Mm,
And then, there's a lot of fear and resistance that comes up, typically within at least one of us, me or my husband around making that move and what is that going to mean. And so much of it is just that natural human fear of change of,
mhm,
well, what if this isn't the right decision? And that fear has upped its ante since having a child, because my husband and I moved around, for 10 years together without a child. And then a child comes into the picture and you're like, wait a second, we need to think this through a little bit more. When in reality, we really are just being guided.
mhm. Yeah.
That's pretty that's pretty amazing that you have been able to do that and what that does offer your son. I mean, adaptability to different environments is such a gift that you can provide to your child. 'Cause it makes me so nervous that like if we stay stuck in one place that she's going to leave and be basically how I was when I moved to Florida. I was like, I can't be here. Like I need to go back to what I know. But I think it's such a beautiful thing, and it is so great that you do have the ability to do it so much, but I also feel like you have the ability to do it so much because you've gotten it like a routine. It's almost like you've trained yourself to like just listen to your gut and move when you need to move. I know and everyone doesn't have that ability to do that, but like I mean, so many of us have that feeling like we shouldn't be here, but we don't
Mhm.
listen to it because it is so much goes into having to move. So the fact that you've become that, like, that's part of your lifestyle, that's amazing
Mhm.
and
Thank
so amazing.
you.
What a gift to your son. Like, I'm
Thank you.
jealous.
Thank you so much. That it means a lot, especially at this time in the journey, being that we're doing it in 2 weeks again. It's like I
Yeah.
need that spiritual Gatorade, right? Like just
Yeah.
give it to
Yeah.
me.
I'm curious with all the moving and all of that. Like what's and having this effing moment. Have any positive or negative things? Was there anything that you learned about yourself that were positive and negative with so much change?
Hmm. I've learned to trust myself more. I've learned to trust that I am at the right place at the right time, even if it gets hard, right? Because it's interesting. I did such tremendous, like transformational, like 360 healing when I lived in Oregon. And so you could have asked me on some of those days, oh, in 10 years or even 5 years, do you think that you'll identify living in Oregon as one of your most precious places you've ever lived? And I would be like, nope, I need to get out of here. Like, because it's, I had some dark nights of the soul. I had some shadowy, really tough times there. I got fired. It was all these shit, right? Like we moved there because I got a job there. We relocated for that job. And before a year was up, I got fired. And I was like, we came here for this job. And within that week that I got fired, like if I got fired that specific week, and it freed me up to attend a class, an energy healing class that I was always interested in, but never had time for, whatever, freed me up to attend this class. I took this class and it's still the bread and butter of my business and what I have grown so much on. And I'm like the most grateful for. So like, that's my best example, like moving across the country, getting fired, being like, what am I even doing? And then realizing, oh, okay, I've been guided here for this. This was the vehicle. This job was the vehicle and the thing that pulled me in. But I'm actually here to become an energy healer.
Yeah.
And, like, because all of this lined up for me and it couldn't have if I didn't get fired on that day.
That's why we always say, I'm so glad you're saying this, because sometimes we have an effort moment and it doesn't go as planned, right? It doesn't go the way we wanted it to, but you get something out of it no matter what when you say fuck it and follow yourself to where you're supposed to go. And even if the outcome isn't what you had in mind, you have no idea on that journey what's coming out. And I'm so happy that you're saying that,
Yeah, you
because
froze.
you are now doing what you were made to do, not that job. Yeah, even if that effort doesn't work out for you, it's going to work out in some way. So now you're living your truth, doing the job you were meant to do, not the job you flew there to do, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
powerful. Yes.
Mhm.
exactly. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes. I think that's important for anyone to hear, that like, oh, I said fuck it and I did it and then it wasn't what I wanted. If you're not open to letting the universe, God, whatever it is your belief system is, like guide you, like you're on that effort journey for a reason once you jump on. So be open to where it's going to take you.
Yeah. It really like I really truly believe that like the universe has a plan.
Yeah. Yes.
And it really, it might be hard to trust it sometimes. Like sometimes I waver in that, like, what the fuck's happening? But it really does, like, there have been so many things since Romy and I started this podcast that because we started this thing and this was our effort moment has
Yes.
led to so many different amazing,
Mhm.
sometimes very difficult, but those difficult things make you learn about yourself. And so that's why it's so important. And we hope that moms that are listening, if you've got that inkling, please just follow it.
Follow
Follow it.
it. Follow
Yes.
it.
Yes.
You have to muster that courage. You really
Yes.
have to muster
Yeah.
that courage. And like
Yes.
the epic moment is the moment where you like step into your courage.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have the choice
Yes.
Absolutely.
to. You have the
Absolutely.
choice
And we
to.
always say that that first step is the hardest step to take because it is literally you stepping out of what you know into the unknown. But from that, you have snowball of effort moments that lead you to so many different things. And so that's why we say, that's why we encourage, and that's why we have this. Like, we
Yeah.
hope this
Yeah.
motivates one person out there to step into their truth because it's so worth it.
So the other example is I live in New York. We made the choice to move in with my mother-in-law for 1 year. And that was really, really hard a choice to make, right? For obvious reasons, like sharing a kitchen and, you know, kind of co-parenting with grandparents and just all of this, right? Yeah. So we made this choice, and there have been many moments this past year where I've just been like, what the fuck did we do? Like, but now I'm sitting here now. We're leaving in 2 weeks, right? And I'm just like, wow. Like I was given this gift of grace, right? Because my mother-in-law, she adores my son and wants to, like, I'm not a morning person. Like I had so much initial postpartum anxiety and extended postpartum, and like really having a hard time adapting to being a morning person. And my mother-in-law is all those things. She's like, oh yeah, I'll wake up with him in the morning. Like, I was able to catch up on my sleep. I was able to go on a business retreat that really took my business to a new level. I was like to do all these things that felt really hard to do because I didn't have that kind of in-house support system, that where I could just be like, I was just invited to this thing, or I just got scheduled for this thing. Can you be with him so I can do this? Countless times where I've been supported with so much grace and rejuvenation and like ability to rest and rejuvenate my mom body, and like just incredible gifts. And yes, there were sacrifices, sharing a kitchen, sharing parental ideas of what is right and wrong, like all of that, was really tough. But ultimately, I am so grateful that we chose to be here for this year, because it has set us up in this way where we're like stronger now to like go forward.
Yes.
They always say, like, sometimes if you're not willing to kind of step back in order to go forward, right? If you're not willing to make things like that that allow you to go forward, then you don't know what's ahead. You've got to be willing sometimes to make sacrifices in order to see what's going to come. All of us have had to do that. I'm curious, when you go through these, how do you push yourself through those negative self-talks, that come to your head when you're in the midst of having to sacrifice things?
I think I've just leaned into like a deeper level of self-care. Like, how do I take care of myself when I feel rage, when I feel frustration, when I feel stuck, like, because I think that historically I would just get stuck in that, and it would lead to, resentment or confrontation that was unnecessary, And so I think like just being able to reach into my self-care bag a little deeper and be like, what do I need? What is going to bring me back to neutrality so that I can handle this situation, so that I can have this conversation that feels really hard, and I don't need to have it from this place of anger. I could have it from a place of neutrality. And just learning what my body needs to come back to a neutral place where I can move forward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think once we have those tools and once we use them, I tell people in my coaching sessions, like, you have all these tools, you've learned all these tools, right? You know what's available to like get yourself back on the train when we fall off. And it's often when we're on that like train, it's going off, like we don't remember to use them, which is what they're there for. Like that's why we practiced and learned them. They're there, but you got to grab them. You got to
Yeah.
use them. You got to do your meditation. You got to do your breath work. You got to do whatever it is you know how to do, and use it to get back on. And that always, I'm glad you're saying that, because I always tell people, like, people can tell you all day long, do this, do that, do that. You've got to push it in you to effing reach out and do those things for yourself, to keep yourself going.
It's funny we're talking about this. I just had a conversation with my therapist yesterday, and my therapist was asking me in regards to those moments where I am feeling that anxiety, or I'm feeling like, what are the things that it is that I need to do? And the thing is, like, I'm a very logical person, and I am tapped into the fact that I can feel all these feelings, and I should be walking away and doing what it is that I need to do to get myself together. But in those moments, it can be very like I just go to just push through it, which is not what I should be doing. Like, I need to touch into those emotions, which is a really hard thing for me to do, and I'm really working on trying to do that. But like, my logical brain knows all the things I need to do. And
Yeah.
then it's just this other part of me that's like, my brain is so hardwired to just continue moving on that same path I've done before. To like combat that is very difficult. But I am aware. And I think the first step is awareness to know that, like, this is what I normally do. I need to like take a minute and really like get in touch with what it is that I'm feeling, so that I can come from a place of neutrality and not get into a conversation based on emotion, based on my past like fear as a child, or however the wounds that I have. It is really important. I think we tend to always want to just push through, at least a lot of people that aren't aware of these things. and it's important to take that minute. And it's you got to do you, like it's you doing you when you get in touch with that.
Yes,
Super important.
100%. Yeah, we are all such different energetic beings, and we have to be able to tap into like, I get that that's working for her, but like, what works for me? Because
Yeah.
it's clearly not this.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm curious to know, what type of person were you prior to this effort moment versus where you're at now in present day? How would you describe the old Jenny Lee to the new Jenny Lee?
Hmm. I was incredibly anxious and wasting my energy thinking about things that I had no control over,
Mm.
that didn't really matter, right? Because end of day, I don't have control over how much my son is going to need therapy or not. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I could think I'm doing it perfect. Like, I am doing it the way that I'm meant to be doing it for him. And I do believe that strongly, that like we chose each other and this is a soul contract and we're doing this thing. And me being in my head about like, oh, like I'm going to do it wrong. Like he picked me out of billions of other moms. Like this, we're doing this. Like,
Mhm.
and me in my head is my self-sabotaging behavior, right? Like the amount of energy that I have now to actually be productive when my son's at school and like, work on my business and just like work on myself is exponential, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just so much more. And I think it took me a long time to just really own my energy. Like this is how I take care of this, right? Like and like there are so many great examples out there of other moms, women, humans doing it different ways. And I get to try things on and say this doesn't work for me, and keep moving. And I think that that's the biggest thing that has shifted about me is that like I am not sorry about any of this. And like I get to be this, I get to be his mom, I get to be this wife, I get to be this friend, I get to be this like this is who I am, and I don't have to be in my head about changing any of that or trying to, you know, make it so that it's going to be easier for my son or whatever. Just I just have to be me.
Yeah.
I really love you saying this because I've explored so many new parts of me over the last year in therapy that I had shame in who I was. I'm not the wife or the partner or the person that this person wants to marry, or this is going to be I'm going to be the mom to. And I've really had to work through saying I'm not who I would have painted myself to be as a partner or as a mother. As a mother, yes, but as a wife, as a partner, whatever, I had to stop shaming myself and being like, this is who I am. I'm unapologetically okay with not shaming myself. I'm going to find love and beauty in the woman that I am. My therapist has really helped me with that, which we shame ourselves for not looking like other people. And it is a lot of work to get to an honest space to say, I love who I am. And no, I am not like your wife or your mom or your home. And ours looks different, right?
Yeah.
But we really love it. And if we can show our kids that we really love ourselves for being just who we are, not trying to mold ourselves into being what the neighbors look like or the friends at school's families look like, right? But really just loving and embracing who we are, that gift, I think, goes far beyond, the therapy we're going to put them in no matter what for some other shit.
Yeah.
100, yeah,
Yes.
100%. I mean, it shows our children the importance of loving ourselves first.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way that you can have harmonious relationships and like be able to get through life in like a happier, peaceful
Yes.
way, is to be good with you
Yes.
first. It's not a
Yes.
selfish thing. But I wanted
No.
to touch on the whole thing about like not being able to control anything. I think that just needs to be kind of drilled in there, because I think there are a lot of moms out there that think that they can control what their children do, or what, and wanting them to do certain things and maybe have them live the life that they weren't able to live. And to understand that we are simply guides to our children. Our children are different. Our children are special and they're going to have their path in life. And the best thing that we can do is just provide them with tools, support, and love to let them live the lives that they want to live. Yes, we need
Yeah.
to protect in the ways that we can, but like we don't have any control over anything else. And I think the minute you accept that, at least for me as a mom, knowing that I don't have that control, it's actually like a lot of like like it's almost like a weight and a responsibility off my shoulders because I can't control that. She is her special person. My daughter has her own personality and she's going to do what she's going to do. And I can just simply guide her and maybe make suggestions, but it's like, it's your life. You live it.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No, it is. And on that, I have my spiritual, my faith base that has helped me. So for me, I heard a message once and it's really hit me that like when she walks out that door, she's she's God's kid. She's in God's hands. She's not mine. Ultimately, whether it's a universe or whatever you believe, when she leaves
Yeah.
me, I'm not she's in God's hands. Like they're on their own journey. I am
Wow.
just placed here to like assist in love and help. But ultimately they're going to grow up. They're going to go to college. They're going to get married. They're going to do their own thing. And you got to have some peace knowing that like there's only a certain amount that you can control.
Yeah. Or they
They
won't do any of those things.
Right. Or they're not going to right. They might not do any of them. I'm just saying at some point they're going to walk out your door and you don't get to choose any of it
Yeah.
anymore. So you
No.
start practicing now. It's going to be a lot easier if you can
A
start
lot easier.
if you start recognizing that now that they're here for their own journey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My last question would be, what is your message of empowerment to your child then, and any mom listening?
So my message of empowerment to moms is definitely, our kids are going to learn what we do, not what we tell them to do, right? And so it all comes back to us. It all comes back to like, how are we allowing ourselves to be who we are and to allow for ourselves to emote, for instance, like being able to cry in front of your kid and not hide it and like stuff like that feels really important for this next generation.
Yes.
To not feel shame, not to hide things from your kid because you were conditioned that you're supposed to hide things from people because your kid is just going to act that way and continue that pattern. And so it's definitely, it takes work. It takes a lot of work. And I just think like the awareness of it, the intention of it, it's not going to be perfect, but just note like, oh yeah, I noticed that I'm telling my kid to do this. But I'm over here doing this. Like how can I just embody the message more and just know that that's going to impact the way it's supposed to impact. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's like a really great message. Yeah.
I love that. I love all of this. And I just want to thank you so much. It's been a while again since we've chatted and connected, but this is what I do love about moms and the community and the women that come through our lives. Like you said, we meet each other, we stay in touch with each other, we follow each other's lives.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that we could connect. Yeah, that we all connect and that we get to follow each other's lives through social media, which is one of the beautiful things about it because people can come and go, but we can still feel involved in their lives. So I love following you. Will you let everyone here know where to follow you, where they can connect with you, all the places?
Yeah. So follow me on Instagram at Jenny Lee Dowling. And from there, I have links to working with me, to listening to my podcast that I have with my husband that's about relationships. All my links and stuff are right there on Instagram at Jenny Lee Dowling.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And this is where we're all going to say just F it to close it out. So if you want to start us off, Jenny Lee.
Just F it.
Just F it.
Just F it.